Air travel has never been easier. Each summer, we Brits fly off for just a few quid from Heathrow to Helsinki, Manchester to Malaga, or Luton to Lanzarote. Those flying buses should be accessible to all. But there's a big problem in the skies.
There has been an increase in stories about bigger passengers, but I think you should also look at in the fact that airline seats have been getting smaller historically. So, I mean, I think it's an inevitable problem that as the population gets bigger and airline seats are getting smaller, we're going to reach a point where we'll have problems with people getting into airline seats.
And that point was reached in 2010, when this man booked a budget seat on a flight to Toronto with Canadian airline Air Transat. At 32 stone, he struggled to fit in his seat. He asked the cabin crew if he could move, and this was the response.
She went away for about 5 minutes or so, came back and said, will you mind coming with me? So I was like, yes, she's found me another seat, so that's fine. And I noticed we were starting to walk off the flight. So I said, what's going on? And, she said that her and the captain had a word. And because I couldn't get the armrest down, that I couldn't fit on the flight and I would have to vacate the flight, basically. She just explained everything to me and it felt horrible. Coming back through, I had to go through security again. I was escorted and people were looking at me. So, I felt almost like a criminal or a terrorist or something like that.
Sandy's crime was that his body was creeping into the next door seat, so he'd need to fork out for a second seat in addition to the 500 quid he'd already spent. The cut-price airline was getting a lot less budget.
And I said, well, how much is another flight going to be? And they replied it's going to be around about £1,000. I just thought, first of all, even if it was £500, there's no way I could pay that. I actually had to borrow money to get that fare in the first place to go over to Canada. It threw me, it really did.
Air Transat commented, "We can't ask people their measurements before they book a flight. It's a breach of their human rights." Which was probably of no comfort at all as Sandy watched the plane take off for Toronto without him, his human rights intact, his dignity in tatters.
I had no apology of that from the airline. All I received was my money back for the flight, obviously, because I didn't take the flight. They offered me a voucher of, I think it was £100 or £200 to fly with them again, which I found was quite cheek of them.
Sandy has the dubious honour of being the first British passenger deemed too fat to fly. And though the rest of us are still squeezing ourselves into the teeny tiny 17 inches of airline seat provided, the nightmare of plus-size plane travel is all too real.
Being that size, I had nearly a 52-inch waist. It wasn't just being on the plane, it was walking down the aisle, I couldn't go to the toilet, to be honest. It was far too uncomfortable. Those cubicles are small enough for an average-sized person.
Yes, this story is about holding it in. No, not that kind of holding it in. It happened on a flight back from Egypt and had a dramatic effect on this voluptuous vacationer.
I always struggled flying because of the size of the seats, and my husband and I would always sit together so that my overspill would be into his seat.
But disaster struck when 24-stone Claire realised that her overspill would be spilling over elsewhere.
We got on the plane and we were actually across the aisle from each other. Sort of reality hit home was that I was going to have trouble. And the fact that I was not just overspilling into the aisle, I was overspilling into the seat next to me, and there was the lady who I was sat next to. She was a bit frosty. You could sort of tell that she wasn't happy. And I can understand that.
Forced to spend the next 5 hours sharing a seat with a far from friendly fellow passenger proved unbearable. For both of them, presumably.
I literally did want the floor of the plane to open up and for me to drop through it. I was in tears. I didn't want to be in that situation and I wanted to sort of run and hide.
But on a plane, there's nowhere to hide.
5 hours of hell.
Red-faced and at rock bottom, the only way was down. 8 dress sizes down.
I've lost nearly 12 stone now. You know, getting on the plane for our most recent holiday, and I think the woman sat in front of me wondered what on earth I was doing because the tray table went up and down and up and down. And I was more than just a little bit excited about the amount of room that I had around me in that seat. My size restricted me in everything that I did, from holidaying to travelling to doing the things that I wanted to do.
So just how restrictive is the plane when you're a heavyweight holidaymaker? It's time to meet our supersized testers. This heavyweight team are going undercover to experience for us the trials, the tribulations and the trauma endured by plus-size passengers. All 3 of them have suffered in the skies.
Travel is an absolute nightmare. You've got 3 choices. Either you go with the window seat, you go in the middle seat, you go in the aisle seat. You go in the middle seat, it's like going to Tanamo Bay. You can't get out. Once you're in, you're in.
Walking down the aisles of an aeroplane, you have to walk sideways. I actually wanted to be a hostess, but that went totally out the window when I saw the size requirements.
I do tend to hit everyone on the right and left with my rather voluptuous boobs. So some of the men don't mind actually being knocked on the head.
I bet they don't. Does that cost extra? Coming up, their voyage through the turbulence-filled world of the ample-figured aeroplane passenger when they'll travel deep undercover to face the horrors that await the supersized traveller.
I'm not going to fit in there.
And we see how the ever-growing obesity epidemic is weighing heavy on the theme parks.
If you're not in that seat correctly, you're dead.
Ah, the wonderful world of plane travel. Once the preserve of the rich and famous, it really was the most glamorous way to travel. Not anymore. As this lot are about to find out. We've put our supersized undercover plane testers into training on an out-of-service aircraft to remind them of the horrors that await the plus-size passenger. Think of this as a sort of Boeing boot camp.
I struggle with the toilets, right? You open that door and then what I have to do is I have to go sideways. Sometimes I have to lift the old belly up, squash myself back. Literally, I'm forcing my back to the toilet just to shut the door. And then I have to...
Listen up your belly.
The door can't open because my knees are literally touching the door.
Classic.
So while they continue to train on the plane, here are more airborne stories from the obesity epidemic front line to help prepare them for the pitfalls that await.
Flying on an aeroplane would be a special nightmare.
When you're that big, you try and hide yourself away anyway.
I just felt that everybody was looking at me. You know, there's the fat one who can't even fit in a seat. Nasty feeling.
This is Michael. He used to weigh 28 stone and his giant girth caused a problem on a flight to Israel.
When you walk down the aisle in the aeroplane, everyone's looking at you thinking, I hope he doesn't sit next to me because you'll encroach on their own minimal personal space. When I was at my largest, there was the shame really that the seatbelt didn't fit, and then having to think, will I have the courage to be able to call over an air hostess and everyone can hear me and ask for an extension belt? And the first time that I really needed that extension belt, I didn't have the courage. I covered over the belt with my hand so you couldn't see it wasn't done up. And then it was the flight from hell. It was the roller coaster ride where everyone is screaming because the plane's going up and down. And there's me without a seatbelt on. It was an incredibly scary experience.
When Amy Mays flew to Ibiza, weighing in at 25 stone, she cleverly booked herself a roomy emergency exit seat. That was a mistake.
I was pretty much at my largest then. It was about 25 stone. I sort of said to the air hostess, oh, can I have one of the extension belts? And she was like, we can't sit there if you need an extension belt because these are classed as exit seats or something. So if you're disabled or deemed as not fit enough to kind of get out quick enough, I suppose. So had to kind of swap seats with a woman, which is quite difficult when you're that large anyway, in an aisle. So by this time I had a full audience and yeah, I was very, very humiliated. So it's quite sad, really.
And finally, a word of caution. If you're big, do try and find someone kind to sit next to.
I was on the aisle seat. My husband was sat in the middle and there was this French man on the window seat. And my French isn't that great, but he was going on about the grande dame. And basically he was saying, could he be moved? Because he didn't want to sit by the big fat woman. Honestly, I nearly cried because not only was it hurtful, the way he spoke, but I wasn't affecting him at all because my husband, he was quite slim, he was the buffer in between, so it wasn't affecting him at all. He was just a rude, horrid man.
Quelle horreur! So now our plus sizers have road tested a plane and we've heard firsthand some of the big problems they might face. It's time for them to go undercover. First up, they're ringing the airlines to see what information is out there for the larger built passenger.
For training purposes, calls may be recorded. You are in a call queuing system and your call will be answered as soon as possible.
It's a little bit embarrassing, but I just need a little bit of information. I'm a little bit bigger than I think a standard size seat. Can I just know the sizes of your seat?
Just give me one moment here, let me see if I can get that information.
Thank you.
Have you got the sizes of your seats? So, because what we don't want to do is turn up and find that we're actually too big for our seats.
It's a very specific question. I'll do my best to find out.
Right.
I'll have to ask the supervisor, okay, to hold?
Yes, that's fine. I'll hold. Thank you very much.
Your average waiting time in minutes is 2. Thank you for holding. Our lines in Ryanair Direct are very busy today. Remember, if you
We are waiting to get some information. Every question needs a few minutes. At least we get music on the waiting line.
Oh, it's just went dead.
But perseverance pays off and Colin finally gets to ask a question.
Can I book the exit row seats for extra legroom?
Yes, of course. You can reserve the seat on the extra legroom seat. You can hold a little bit longer.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Won't be long. Won't be much longer. Another couple of minutes, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What's really crazy is that we as customers can't get the information. But what's worse is that the people answering the phone at customer services who should have the answers actually don't have the answers. They're putting us on hold for nearly every single question. So how are we as travellers meant to know what's going on when they don't know what's going on?
Well, you'd better get down to the airport then. But while our plus sizers head off to hunt out their passports, let's see how obesity is waging war on other holiday hotspots, turning the big fat spotlight onto theme parks. We start with a perennial plus-sized problem. You go to a theme park, you ride the log flume, you get to the end, and this happens.
I think it was back in 2007. It was up in Universal Studios. We go out quite often and try and the mates go out for a week or so just to have a bit of a laugh and get away from it all.
Yes, it looks like a right laugh. You appear to be stuck, sir.
My legs got wedged in the thing, so I couldn't get back out again. And you see it on there where they're all trying to pull me out and that. All they were doing is just pushing my legs into the counter and going all around there. So by the time I got out there, I think there was a queue of about 10 logs behind me there.
Jan's son posted the clip on YouTube under the title "Fat Man Stuck on Ride." Kids, eh?
People said, oh, I've seen your video on there. So, not a lot once it's up there, you're stuffed, don't you? You can't take it down. So. It's one of those things, so you don't get too embarrassed. It's not very often anyway.
Next, we visit the fun fair that was no fun for this lady. Super fit boxing instructor Claire Hughes. Back in the days when she squeezed snugly into these slacks, she had a less than fair fight with a Ferris wheel.
It's started on its way up, and then as we were not even halfway up, it stopped. And it was creaking quite a lot. And he actually shouted up, "Sorry, love, you're going to have to get off, you can't take your weight." I was devastated. I had to get off the ride and leave the children to carry on their own, and then stand around very red-faced waiting for them to come off, because obviously everybody else in the crowd had heard what he said to me.
It was less scream if you want to go faster, more get off if you want to avoid a disaster.
It just looked like quite a sturdy structure, to be fair, so I thought I'd go on the Ferris wheel and there wouldn't be any problem with that. Not thinking that I was that big that I would ground it.
And it prompted Claire to take on the fight of her life as she fought and beat the flab.
It was time to come to terms with the fact that this problem wasn't going to go away and that I needed to do something about it, and I needed to face up to it.
And now, first time back on a Ferris wheel for round 2, she's definitely punching above her weight.
Feels fantastic. I was a little bit scared when getting back on it, that the same sort of thing might happen again, because that will always stick with me, but to actually be on here and to know that it is possible is a great feeling, so I look forward to bringing my children out soon.
If you're too round to ride at all, you have to do the walk of shame.
Too big.
Yup, your humiliation is witnessed by your fellow riders, the entire queue, and the annoying bloke inevitably filming it for YouTube. Well, it's preferable to falling out 50 feet up. Probably.
Is he seriously too fat for the ride?
And finally, to the man who knows all about how the obesity epidemic is threatening our theme park thrills.
People are getting larger, and that creates difficulties because the rides simply cannot accommodate oversized people.
This is Marshall Hills, owner of Funland, Hailing Island's premier theme park. But for some, the fun's gone out of Funland.
I've been in this job for 25 years plus, and it's a thing that's got worse every year, I'd say, since I can remember. I can't remember when I first started it was a big issue, but now it's getting bigger. I've had people cry. Not me personally, staff, I just got to be very careful how you tell them, because it's upsetting to be told that you're too big. It's a shock, and we have to say to them, unfortunately you can't get on this ride. But we have to be very careful how we tell them that. We would never mention they're fat. We just say your shoulders are too big or something like that, or your legs, or the ride is just made for smaller people.
Marshall is keen to show us just how dangerous a ride can be if you're fuller-figured. He has recruited his big-shouldered security guard, Dave, to demonstrate on Funland's top thrill ride, the drop.
As you see, the problem here, we have a very big person, and the problem occurs, and it's getting more regular now, is when we go like that, you can't lock the bar, and you can see the safety device will not fit in, and quite simply, this person cannot ride this ride because A, is too big, and B, the ride won't let us do it. So it is becoming a bigger problem. It's just not a case of making them bigger, because smaller people will then be in difficulties by rattling about too much.
So what would happen if Dave tried the drop without a harness?
The drop ride is a ride that takes you to the top and drops you. It goes 130 foot up in the air. Without question, if you're not in that seat correctly, you're dead.
Curiously, Dave doesn't put that to the test. He's clearly not up for the challenge. Unlike these two, Gemma and Helen, wired up with hidden cameras, are heading deep undercover at 35,000 feet.
I'm excited.
I'm really excited.
James Bond style.
Babe, we are like 008. We are like all the curves.
Bingo!
Babe, we've got bingo wings, that's about it.
Helen's invented a unique system for scoring an airline on its capacity to cope with her curves.
The 3 Bs are, when you're going into the toilet more than anything, is boobs, belly and bum, really. You know, it's that old problem of having to squash all 3 into the toilet. And also, the 3 Bs do come into effect when we're walking down the aisle, you know, because I do have to tend to walk sideways because someone's head will get knocked with one boob.
Couple of black eyes on the way down.
The girls and their 3 Bs rock up at the airport and prepare to board a Flybe flight to sunny Belfast.
Bit nervous.
They squeeze their 3 Bs onto the plane and down the aisle.
Pull that up, sir.
They squish them into their seats.
Bit of a squeeze, babe.
Is it?
Yeah.
And squashing at least 1 B apiece, they try to do up their seatbelts.
Very good, is it? This is so tight.
Helen discreetly requests a seatbelt extender, and the crew seem friendly.
Oh, that's pretty outstanding. Oh, thank you, honey. Oh, thanks for everyone, babe.
Perhaps a little too friendly.
Oh, great, now everyone's turned around. That was discreet.
This makes it too big for me.
Oh, God, I'm so uncomfortable.
Think that's uncomfortable? It's about to get a lot cosier. 'Cause Helen's up and off to the loo. Blimey, she's brave. Hope she remembers she's got a camera on. It's all right. She's just investigating how her 3 Bs squeeze into the smallest space.
Turn around. Oh, as you can see, it's all a little bit tight, really. Very tight indeed. Cheers. We did the 3 Bs, boobs, bombs and belly. Just going to go to the side.
Meanwhile, Gemma's enjoying the extra space. Or not. Mission aborted. No chance of joining the Mile High Club then?
I'm not that happy, to be honest. It's digging into my leg. Do you know, and I'm sitting half on Helen's bit.
Elbows are touching, our thighs are touching, and this is still up. But the fact is, if it was a stranger next door to us, it actually would be highly embarrassing.
Coming up, their misery continues.
I'm feeling secluded. I'm very uncomfortable.
Undercover Colin takes to the skies.
This is going to be a tight squeeze.
And we've more holiday horror stories as the world buckles under the weight of the population's widening waistlines.
My legs are all right, it's my tits.
A holiday should be a time of relaxation, good food, fine wine and basking on baking beaches without a care in the world. But first, you've got to get there. And thanks to a raging epidemic of fat, that can be a nightmare. As Gemma and Helen have been finding out when we squashed them on a Flybe flight to Belfast.
I couldn't put my table down. I was sitting on Helen's seat. I was sitting on Helen. So, not that great, really.
Oh dear, Gemma's not going to have that problem on the way back, because we've split them up. Once again, deep undercover, they board the plane. This time it's EasyJet, and as they find their seats, one of them isn't happy.
Oh, you're joking? The leg room on that is ridiculous.
She isn't happy at all.
I'm not going to fit in there. I get someone next to me, actually cry. A river, a big one. It's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, Helen has a spare seat beside her, but she's discovered another problem.
I can't rest my coffee on that, but just actually it's not going to go down. It's just ridiculous. I want it there and I want to break it down. So I'm going to put a coffee on that. No, my luck, I'll spill it.
Gemma is squeezed into seat 3E. There's only one thing on her mind. Please, no one be sitting in 3F.
No, not 3F, not 3F. No. Keep moving, go on.
Luckily for Gemma, 3F remains empty.
They might have saw me and thought, fuck that, and gone and sat somewhere else. Not only sit in my seat, not only am I going to get a right beefcake next to me, but also I can't do the seatbelt up. Yeah, I'm feeling very traumatic. I was having a laugh before, but right now, I'm not having a laugh though.
Too flustered to ask for a seatbelt extender, she waits to see if anybody notices. But they appear not to.
They were meant to check Gemma's seatbelt, and they looked. She did actually do a double take.
Gemma doesn't have it on when the cabin crew check. She doesn't have it on when they do the safety demonstration.
Whenever the seatbelt signs are illuminated, you must return to your seat and fasten your seatbelt.
And as the plane prepares for takeoff, she still doesn't have the seatbelt securely fastened.
I can't actually believe that the air stewardess has walked past at least 3 times and had a glance about Gemma wearing a seatbelt and just about to take off.
Excuse me?
She's only just asking for one now.
You just bring that out back.
I'm going to embarrass myself by asking if you actually sleep up to it. So here you go.
We're moving it. Thank you, honey.
Just 2 minutes later, the plane takes off.
She was embarrassed to ask me if I had my seatbelt done up. So again, I was willing to risk my safety over the embarrassment of the simple question, have I got my seatbelt up? I'm feeling like a sausage bag. I'm feeling secluded. I'm very uncomfortable.
So, all in all, not the world's most pleasant experience. The seats were too snug, the seatbelts too short, and acute embarrassment for passenger and cabin crew. But at least our gorgeous girls didn't encounter this problem.
We didn't feel that we had that big a problem with our weight. Obviously, we found that it was a problem when we were on the plane.
This is Jan and Alan, B&B owners from Hampshire. They weren't always so super svelte. Just 3 years ago, they weighed in at a whopping combined 40 stone. And that caused them big trouble on a little flight to Guernsey.
We boarded the plane, we'd all taken our seats, and had we taxied down the runway a bit?
We taxied out of where the plane normally parks up.
Yeah.
And then we're all strapped in, the engines are going, and then the stewardess comes walking down the plane because she had a phone call at the front, obviously the captain. So this nice little blonde in the blue suit. She walked all the way down to the back, saw me, and she said, "Excuse me," she said, "but I need one of you to move. Only there's too much weight in this part of the plane. We can't go any further."
So what now?
She said that there was an uneven distribution of weight, and she didn't say because Alan was the biggest on the plane she wanted to move him. She just said she had to move somebody. Well, it was obvious why. She implied that the plane couldn't take off until such time as they'd redistributed the weight within the plane. Yeah.
What the dickens kind of flimsy flying machine were you trying to fly on? Did it look something like this?
It was a Flybe plane, yeah, and it takes about 100 people in there.
And it looks like this. Pretty substantial, really, but there's a reason why it couldn't cope with our cuddly couple. It's a bit technical, so we've asked an expert to explain.
Well, if you've got a large couple sitting right at the back of a smaller commuter-type aircraft, this might present a problem in terms of the mass and balance loading of the aircraft. The central gravity might be out of limits, and therefore it might be pertinent to ask the couple to move towards the centre, but more towards the front of the aircraft, to keep the central gravity within limits so that the aircraft is safe to fly. It affects the control stability of the aircraft in the pitching plane, which is basically the up and down plane movement of the aircraft. This will generally affect it more at lower speeds, such as takeoff and landing. If the aircraft's too sensitive to fly, it could end up leading to an incident.
You feel as though the whole plane's looking at you, really. You know, what the hell's going on now? Or why aren't we taking off? And so totally embarrassing.
Left red-faced, Jan and Alan took matters into their own hands.
We decided when we came back that lifestyle had to change. We couldn't carry on eating the way that we were, and we certainly didn't want to go through an experience like that. And it was just a massive wake-up call.
So go on then. How much have you lost?
Total amount of weight we lost together is 16 stone. We've both lost 8 stone each.
And this dramatic weight loss led them to be Slimming World's Slimming Couple of the Year. So now you're super slim, you'll be avoiding these holiday horrors then.
Give it all you got. Oh, almost.
Yes! I'm falling!
You have to call the fire brigade.
Oh, don't!
Well, we stayed in Wayne's mum's apartment
which was really lovely, with the pool just outside, so you only had to sort of walk a few steps and you was in the pool. And that's when Wayne got me in there. Tried to teach me to swim. So he got the rubber ring, and we had quite a crowd around us. And I didn't realise he was recording it, and some of the words I came out with was a bit naughty.
Help me, Wayne.
Well, you can get your legs over.
Yeah, well, I'll get my legs all right, it's my tits.
It was definitely too tight, pumped up, because you could hear the rubber squeaking. You could hear it making that noise of tightness, couldn't you? And
Even though I was trying to press them in.
Yeah, you're trying to push it, you're trying to tuck her arms in, making it even more tighter. So she got her arms stuck. It was quite funny.
Turn around, you're gonna have to come here a bit.
There was 20 odd people around the pool watching Maureen with this rubber ring in the pool.
The next day, I knew everybody in Lanzarote because they all stopped and said, "Oh, you're the lady who got stuck in the pool." Even when I went for my breakfast.
I think we're in trouble, Maureen.
Yeah. You had to be there to see it, really, I suppose. I didn't take it in until Wayne showed me the video of it, and I was like, oh, for goodness sake. You're not go keep that. He said, yeah, I'll go put it on YouTube. I said, what's YouTube?
I'm behind you.
Of course, unlike Maureen, you don't need to go abroad to find your holiday humiliation. As Crystal Patterson discovered on a week-long stay at Butlins, when weighing in at 21 stone, she attempted to ride a water slide.
The flume was inside the swimming pool, which goes all around that massive white area over there next to the tent. As we went up the big ramp, I was thinking it's going to be okay because we are moving, but then not long after we ended up stuck. So then I realised that it was not going to be okay.
Oops.
I panicked, absolutely panicked. I just kept thinking I have to move out of this because I can't have somebody come rescue me. So I just kept clawing at the sides of this tube, just praying that I would get out of this without anybody realising that I got stuck. My daughter kept saying, why are we stuck, Mummy? Why aren't we moving anymore? I was just saying, it's okay, Faith, we're going to be okay. Mummy's getting us out. But inside I was thinking, this is not going to be okay, and I can't get us out, and I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Fortunately, Butlins did know what to do. They squirted them with water, lots and lots of water, to try and dislodge our formerly fat, stuck mum.
I think it was about 4 or 5 gushes of water, but they were really heavy and they were really big, and they were just like these big waves that were coming behind us and just moving us a tiny little bit more, until finally the last one just freed us and off we went. I kept thinking, am I going to get to the end of this, or is there going to be another tube that I'm going to get stuck in? I should have been enjoying the ride, but really I was just thinking, please let this be over and let this be over quickly.
Yes, all in all, it was the water slide ride from hell. And when you're on holiday, hell can be other people, as this former heavyweight holiday maker discovered.
My epiphany as to why I decided to lose weight was I was on holiday in 2009 with my mum and my friend to Turkey. Lovely holiday, boiling, and we decided to have a Turkish bath. Never had a massage or anything like that before.
And that's where it all went horribly wrong. Because when Jodie walked into her Turkish massage, she didn't look like this. She looked like this, which led the masseur to do this.
As I walked into the room, one of the 3 Turkish masseuses pointed to my stomach and kind of said, "Oh, baby." And I laughed and asked him to repeat himself. So he said it again, and I was like, "No, I'm not pregnant." And then he started miming things and going like, "Baby," like this. And I laughed in, I think, horror. When he was actually doing the massage, he would kind of like tug at bits of my skin and would kind of poke it and go, "What's this? This shouldn't be here. This isn't right." And he'd say something in Turkish and point at his other 2 masseuses that were in the room, and they'd laugh at me, and I felt ridiculed, really. I was really upset. I think that evening I actually went back to the room and cried. I felt more I was just absolutely humiliated and angry with myself, I think, that I'd let myself get to that point.
Following this mortifying massage, Jodie started losing weight. 8 stone in weight over a single year. She's now training to compete in a British bodybuilding fitness competition.
If I could go back and speak to the masseur now, I'd have 2 options. I could either trap him in the face for being so rude, or I could actually turn around and shake his hand and say thanks, because without you being such an arse, I probably wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be enjoying my life and going to the gym and have such a great lifestyle. So that would be my 2 options. It's a pretty tough choice though.
You go, girl. Streamlined and super fit, Jodie wouldn't now be anywhere near too fat to fly. But we know a man who might be. Yep, it's time to put supersized super sleuth Colin to the test. Like Gemma and Helen before him, he's rigged with cameras and is taking to the skies. Hopefully.
This is it. It's showtime.
He heads off to Luton and a Ryanair flight to Dublin.
Close that, yeah? Turn right.
He's on a mission to find the best seat to suit his size. Remember, he's been told on the phone that he can have an emergency exit seat.
Yes, of course. You can reserve the seat on the extra legroom seat.
He wants one, he's a big fella, and there's only one way he can get one. Join a customer service queue.
Oh, this is going to take ages, isn't it?
"20 minutes later, he's still in the queue. After a further 15 minutes, he finally gets to ask his all-important question.
I haven't flown for a while. I've put on quite a bit of weight, and it's a bit embarrassing. I was wondering, will I be able to fit into the seat? And where would you advise me to sit down in the plane, or to be more comfortable for me?
Emergency exit seats.
Would I be able to sit there?
Can you go to a ticket desk, service ticket sales? They work for Ryanair there.
Okay.
And maybe they sell you extra legroom space.
Okay, thank you.
So off he goes to join another queue.
You can book an emergency exit seat.
How much are they?
It's £20 one way.
Yes.
That's 3 times he's been told he can book an emergency exit seat, even though he's a bigger chap. But he decides not to part with an extra 20 quid and takes his chances in the good old traditional boarding scrum.
It's fully booked. No seats available. Extra seats. I'm just have to just see what's on the flight.
Unfortunately, he's the last to board and has to take the only seat available.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Which just happens to be an emergency exit seat.
Oh, this is going to be a tight squeeze. Yeah, I'm a bit of a big lad.
And you're still growing.
Still going.
Well, he seems jolly comfy. That's that then. Oh, hang on. Who's that coming up the aisle?
Can you fasten your seatbelt?
I don't know. I can give it a try. I haven't flown for a while.
Can you try? Because if you cannot... The seatbelt.
Yeah. I'll give it a go. Can you show this for me? This is going to be like the lottery. I've got more chance to win the lottery. Oh no, that's not going to fit.
In front of a packed plane, Colin is told he must move.
Where can I sit?
Because it's an emergency exit row and I'm not taking
Oh.
I found this.
I've got to sit somewhere else.
What's happening?
I'm going to sit somewhere else. Because apparently I'm blocking the exits. So, yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
The law of the skies states you aren't allowed to sit in the emergency row if you need a seatbelt extender. You'd have thought the ground staff might have known that. It would have saved poor Colin a lot of embarrassment.
It was a bit embarrassing, to be honest with you. You know, she wasn't exactly polite. She has to move and stuff, and, you know. She could have been a lot better, you know. She wasn't very discreet and stuff. You know, so,
Ryanair told us this. Larger passengers can purchase an extra seat for comfort. Reserved seating in emergency rows 1, 16 and 17 may not be purchased if you have purchased an extra seat for comfort. Larger passengers can purchase a seat with extra legroom on row 2, seats D, E and F, non-emergency exit seats. Which is baffling, because Colin didn't book an extra seat and the ground staff tried to flog him a seat in row 1.
I don't think British Airlines really have addressed the problem in any sort of systematic fashion. There is this general feeling that maybe, larger people should pay more because, other passengers don't like other people encroaching on their space, or, the person next to them not fitting into the seat properly. But how they can organise that in an honest, sympathetic way, I think has defeated them. So rather than tackling the problem head on, which maybe they should, they tended to have, ignored it and left it to sort of fester, really.
So if the airlines are letting it fester, we could fight obesity ourselves with weapons like a healthy diet and a bit of exercise. It worked for this lot.
For anyone that has got a lot of weight to lose that thinks they can't do it, I would say that's a rubbish excuse. You can do it. If you want something enough, you will do what it takes to get it done.
It was quite nice to fly now because I don't have to put my hand up and ask for the extension belt. Yeah, I can actually get the belt on now, and I've still got room to play with.
Yeah.
That's good. And then we can get the trays down in front of us and actually eat our meal or do a crossword or whatever we want to do. And it was peaceful. And we just rub shoulders like we are now, on the plane. Whereas before, it was all a bit cramped. So yeah, it's a whole experience is a whole lot better.
But for now, we Brits have the embarrassing honour of being the fattest nation in Europe, and we're getting bigger every year. If something doesn't change, there are those who reckon we could be facing big trouble in the air.
You've got an airplane of 118 males of pretty average weights. So 93 kilograms times 180 would be just under 20 tons. Now, let's replace these average weight males with, say, even 100 males that are 10 kilograms heavier. So not that much heavier, just 10 kilograms heavier. This would mean another ton. And this would take us over the maximum payload of the aircraft, which would mean the aircraft will be overweight and will not be able to fly.